Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei Hyoudu's older twin sister was a fallen angel? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Master, wake up won't you? Master, wake up won't you? Master, wake up, won't you please? The voice on Issei's alarm clock kept saying before he finally pushed the button to turn it off. He woke up groggy and drained of energy. Ugh, so tired. Seriously, what the hell is up with all these weird dreams every night? First that thing with Yuma, and now this crazy guy with a trench coat, not to mention that weird masked chick in the soldier getup. What the hell's next, being probed by aliens or what? He complained before he managed to sit up. Issei felt a draft and suddenly realized that he was completely naked, greatly shocking him. What the hell, where are my clothes? Came a voice Issei didn't recognize. He then looked to his left and noticed an odd shape in his bed sheets. He pulled off the sheets and received the shock of his life. It was Ria's Gremory, a third-year student from his school, along with being the president of the Occult Research Club. Her looks and beauty also earned her the moniker of one of Kuo's two great ladies. Every guy wanted to be with her, or do her, and all the girls wanted to be her. Here she was in his bed and like Issei, she too was as naked as the day she was born. God! He shrieked. Then, in a panic, Issei fell off his bed, taking his sheet with him and landed on the floor hard on his back. The scream was enough to stir the sleeping heiress from her slumber, and she finally woke up and stretched her body. She rubbed her eyes and looked to see Issei on the ground, covering himself out of embarrassment, sporting a shocked beyond belief expression. Despite the circumstances, she just looked at him with a smile. Good morning. She greeted casually, completely unashamed of showing her assets to Issei, who tried to look away and cover his eyes, but couldn't fight the urge to look at her and save the image of her naked body to his mind. What are you doing in my bed? He asked, still in shock. Is this really happening or is this some kind of wet dream? Nope, this is real. Ria's confirmed as she completely sat up on his bed. As well as everything else you experienced as a matter of fact. My name is Ria's Gremory, and I'm a devil. And not only that, but I'm also your master now too. You're mine now, it's nice to meet you Issei Hyoudou. The devil? What? And did she say she's my master? What the hell is she talking about? He thought as he tried to digest the information he was just told. Knock knock knock. His train of thought was broken when he heard a knock at the door. Issei, are you okay in there? I heard shouting. Issei pale-faced when he heard his sister's voice. He was terrified now, he knows Kian barely tolerates his perverted antics, but if she came in and saw not just a girl, but a naked one at that there would be hell to pay. Oh crap. Kian. He thought to himself frightened. Yeah Kian, everything is fine. Just don't come in. He said, covering himself with his sheet while trying to figure out what the hell to do in the situation he's in. Don't come in. Kian repeated in confusion. Are you doing something questionable in there? No. Everything is good. Really. I'll be out in a second. Are you reading porn and jerking it right now? No. Please just don't come in. Everything's fine. You don't sound fine. Alright, you know what? That's it, I'm coming in. She declared as she jiggled the doorknob. Ah crap. Quick, put this over you. Issei shouted as he grabbed his bed sheet and put it over Ria's to cover herself. Honestly, what the hell is going on Waya? When Kian opened the door, to say she was shocked would be the understatement of the century. Before her was her brother and Ria's Gremory, both completely naked with Issei's bed sheet covering the lower half of her body, but leaving her impressive breasts exposed. Issei was on top of her in a provocative position. Issei was now completely pale, almost like a ghost when his sister entered his room. Ria's on the other hand, just looked at the shocked older twin and smiled at her. Good morning, how are you today? She greeted casually. Kian tried to say her brother's name, but she failed to form a sentence. Kian, please don't freak out, I can explain Issei said as he held his hand up to his sister. He then looked at Ria's for a moment, who was still smiling, and then back to his sister. I think. Kian's expression soon turned angry, and suddenly she released a killer aura, frightening Issei greatly. It even managed to unsettle Ria's a bit as well. Issei. You, Kian. You sick pervert. Kian shouted as she threw the book she had in hand and threw it towards Issei's head. Bam, the book made contact with Issei's forehead and knocked him off of Ria's and onto the ground. Ugh. He groaned in pain as blood started seeping from the wound on his forehead. You horny little creep. I hope you burn alive today. Kian shouted as she slammed the door and went back downstairs fuming. Ria's just chuckled at the exchange and looked towards the downed pervert. Your sister seems to be quite lively in the morning, doesn't she? Not to mention she really can be scary when she wants to be. When she got no answer, she started to worry. Are you okay? Issei was lying on his back comically sobbing. My sister just saw me with a naked girl in my bedroom. My life is officially over. Somebody just kill me now. Issei begged, earning another chuckle from Rias. After eating breakfast, Kian went ahead to school to try and get the image she had out of her head. She learned from Azazel that devils use an interesting method to heal wounds, but seeing that was too much for her. Meanwhile, Issei and Rias left not long after, and when they arrived at school, the boys and the girls were beyond shocked when they saw one of the most beautiful girls in the school walking with one of the school's biggest perverts, many thinking it had to be some kind of dream or some kind of joke. Before saying their goodbyes, Rias told Issei that she would send someone to fetch him. After school, Kian was now about to leave school and head to the warehouse for more training. After what she witnessed today, school on top of training was a good way to get it out of her head. As she was walking and about to walk out the door, someone called out her name. "Hey Kian." Kian looked to see a sight she never thought she would be alive to see. She saw her brother with a boy around the same age as the twins. The boy in question was a very handsome young man with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and a mole underneath his left eye. The boy also wore the full Kuo Academy boys uniform, which consists of a black blazer with white accents over a white long-sleeved dress shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants, and brown dress shoes. A kind smile adorned his handsome face. This boy was Issei Hyoudou from Class 2B. Kian knew of this boy quite well. He was known as the Prince of Kuo Academy for his good looks. He was by far the most handsome boy to grace the halls of Kuo Academy. According to Mitsuda and Motohama, all the girls in school wanted to sex him up and all the guys wanted to mess him up. Kian herself found Kiba to be quite attractive, even blushing at his appearance. The reason Kian thought she would never see her brother associating with Kiba is because, like nearly the entire male population of the school, he hated Kiba due to his good looks and popularity with the ladies. She quickly regained her composure and acknowledged the two. "Issei and Hyoudou. Well, this is a surprise seeing you with him," Kian said with a snarky grin, causing Issei to shoot at her with an annoyed expression and Kiba to chuckle lightly. "Hello Miss Hyoudou." Kiba greeted her with a smile. It was enough for Kian to blush again. Kian quickly regained her senses and returned his greeting. "Hello Hyoudou. But please, call me Kian, I've never been one for honorifics." "Very well then. In that case, feel free to address me as Kiba." "Very well. So Kiba, what does my brother owe the privilege of your company?" "Well, if you really want to know, I was sent to fetch him by my school club's president, Rias Gremory." Kiba answered with a smile. "Your club? If I am not mistaken Kiba, you're talking about the Occult Research Club, right?" Kian asked with a raised eyebrow. "You are indeed correct Kian. So what exactly do you guys do in the club anyway? If you don't mind me asking." Kian inquired. Although she knows that all the members of the Orc are devils since she became a fallen angel, but she had to keep up the charade for now. "Well, since you asked, as it sounds, the Occult Research Club, or ORC for short, is a club that focuses mainly on various research on the supernatural and the occult. So you guys study things like pentagrams, black magic, witchcraft and all that." "In a nutshell, yes." Kiba answered. Kian knew he was lying but kept quiet about it. "Well, that sounds like a real interesting club, unfortunately it doesn't really sound like my cup of tea." "Oh, don't really believe in the supernatural Kian?" Kiba asked curiously. "Not really Kiba. I'm the kind of person who believes there is a logical explanation for everything that happens. Not like some people who believe that when something out of the ordinary happens, they immediately start thinking poltergeist." Kiba just chuckled at the older Hyoudou twins' answer. "Well, believe it or not, I used to think the same way until the president helped me see things a little differently. She even once told me don't be too dismissive of the supernatural world. There are other dimensions, other beings that permeate what we call reality. Right. I'll believe that when I see it. Well, it's nice to know you'll keep an open mind. Alright, if you two are done playing patty cake, can we go now?" Issei interrupted, having had enough with waiting around. Kiba turned to Issei and finally realized that the conversation took longer than anticipated. "Oh, right. Don't want to keep President Rias waiting any more than we have, do we?" he asked rhetorically before chuckling embarrassingly. He then looked back to Kian. "Well Kian, it was nice talking to you," Kiba said with a smile as he put his hand out to shake Kian's hand. Kian just smiled and returned the handshake. "Likewise Kiba." She then looked towards her brother. "Alright, I'll see you at home Issei," she said, getting a nod from her brother. "And Kiba, please do look after my brother, his perverted nature tends to run wild at times," Kian said, causing Issei to shoot a glare at his sister. "Oh come on Kian. Am I really that depraved in your eyes? After what I witnessed this morning, do you really want me answering that honestly?" Kian answered bluntly with a deadpanned expression before she walked away from the two boys to go to the warehouse. "See you later," she called out. Issei once again looked like a knife was shoved into his heart. "Oh, Kian, how can you be so cruel? Kiba, do you see how she speaks to me?" He then made a gesture of stabbing himself in the chest. "Knife to my heart." Kiba just chuckled at the exchange between the twins. "Oh come now Issei. Despite how Kian speaks to you, I'm sure deep down she loves and treasures you more than anything. Truthfully, whenever I see you two interact, I can't help but feel a little jealous. Sometimes I wish my sibling was here with me," he said with a sad tone, causing Issei to look at him questioningly. Huh? Kiba then shook his head and perked up. "Oh, never mind, it's nothing. Welp, let's get going, shall we? A wise man once said time nor tide wait for no man," he said as he and Issei headed off to the old school building, which was the place where the orc meets for club meetings. At the warehouse, Kian arrived at the warehouse, opened the door and headed inside. Inside, the setup was just about the same as when she arrived the first time. Azazel was dressed in a suit once again and sitting on the table fiddling on his phone. He looked up to see his student and smiled at her. "Ah, Kian. Welcome back, my prized student," he said in a jovial tone. Kian just smiled at her mentor's greeting. "Hello, Azazel. How's it going?" "Better now that you're here. And since you're here, I got some good news for you." Hearing that made Kian perk right up. Tell me. "Well, the guys I told you about who we're gonna interrogate middled, they are making headway," Azazel announced. Hearing that made Kian happy. Finally, she will understand what the hell it is that Raynare is up to and why she tried to kill her brother. "Lord Azazel, is someone else there with you?" Kian raised an eyebrow when she heard an unfamiliar voice. "Who's that, Azazel?" Kian inquired. "Ah, that is one of the guys I called to interrogate middled," he answered. "Yeah, come on in here, I want you to meet my newest protege." On cue, a man walked down from the upper floor. When Kian looked at the man, she was immediately surprised. The man was revealed to be a man who bore a striking resemblance to Donaseek. He wore a black suit with a blue tie with a matching suit jacket. He had blue eyes and his hair was black like Donaseek's, but was longer and done in a short ponytail. "Kian, I'd like you to meet Elias, one of my oldest subordinates and Grigori's finest interrogation specialist." "Elias, this is Issei Hyoudou." Elias went up to young fallen angel and extended his hand for a handshake with a warm smile on his face. "Nice to officially meet you, Miss Hyoudou. I've heard a great deal of you from Lord Azazel, primarily that you're a quick learner. He's also told me of the situation with your brother. I'm sorry for what happened to him," he said. Kian just looked at the hand for a few moments before accepting the handshake. "Nice to meet you too, Elias," she said hesitantly. "Are you alright?" he asked her, noticing the hesitance in her voice. "Yeah, sorry. You just look like someone," she replied. "Can I ask you something, Elias?" "Of course. Does the name Donaseek mean anything to you?" At the mention of the name, Elias's eyes widened. "You know my younger brother?" Kian was shocked at what Elias just asked her. "Donaseek is your brother?" Elias's face soon adopted a scowl. "So Middle was telling the truth, he is here and working with that traitorous whore." "Wait, Middle told you your brother was here?" Kian asked. Elias nodded his head at the girl's inquiry. "Yes, along with another of Raynare's flunkies by the name of Kiyone." Kian was now interested. If Middle told him about other fallen angels who have taken refuge in her hometown, then hopefully she told him other useful information. "Did she tell you anything else by chance?" Elias just shook his head. "I'm afraid not, all she told us was that Raynare had something big planned. One that will ensure her that she and her gang will be, and I quote, the most beloved of all fallen angels and ones who will earn their place by Lord Azazel's and Lord Shemhazai's sides." She didn't say much after that, but that will change soon enough. "You really think you can get her to talk?" "Trust me, Kian, Elias here is one of the best interrogators the Grigori has. If anyone can get Mitla to talk, he can. He's not the head of Grigori's interrogation and torture corps for nothing, you know." Azazel answered for her with his usual grin on his face. "And, since you're here, Elias, maybe you can show Kian a few of your tricks later on?" he suggested. "Tricks?" Kian asked with a curious tone. "Indeed. Believe it or not, Elias here, when he isn't putting a squeeze on prisoners for information, he likes to hunt in his free time, and he is a damn fine hunter. He's also a hell of a shot with a rifle." "Oh please, you flatter me, sir," Elias said with a humble tone. "Really, like what kind of tricks do you think you can teach me? How about learning how to hit your target from over 4,000 meters away and a few other things on top of that?" Elias said with a grin, causing Kian to go wide-eyed in amazement. 4,000 meters, that's almost 2.5 miles away. Even the record shot was 3,540 meters. "I didn't even think a shot from that far was possible," Kian exclaimed. "It's difficult, yes. But impossible, I believe nothing is impossible. And the fact that being a fallen angel also gives you more of an edge of pulling it off," Elias responded. Azazel just chuckled at the exchange between the two, but decided they were burning daylight and they needed to get to training his student. Alright, enough patty cake you two. Kian, it's time to get to your training. Suit up and we'll get started." Kian just nodded and did just that. "Alright. Equip." At those words, Kian's bracelet glowed and in less than a moment, she donned her fatigues and mask. Elias looked at her battle fatigues with interest. Well, I gotta say that is some pretty interesting battle attire, Kian. Elia said, impressed as Kian pressed a switch on her helmet that slid the skull part up to reveal her face. I thought you would like it, Elias, I designed it myself. Azazel said smugly. Elias just rolled his eyes at his leader's cockiness. You always did have the most eccentric taste, sir. I think I'll stick around for a bit. I would like to see your newest apprentice in action. Elias said as he walked towards the table and sat on it. Azazel then got off and faced Kian with his usual grin. Alright then Kian, let's get to training, shall we? He said as he walked towards the firing range. Kian grinned as she pressed the button on the side of her mask as the skull part of the mask slid down again to cover her face as she walked to where her mentor was and took a combat stance. Later that night, it was now nighttime once again in Kuo town. Walking through the streets was Issei with his bike by his side. Earlier today when Kiba took him to the orc clubhouse, Issei received the shock of his life when he learned that everyone in the club were devils, and now he was one too. At first he was scared and skeptical at first until they had shown him proof, especially when they showed him proof that the girl known as Yuma Mano was not only real, but she was also a fallen angel, a species that are the sworn enemies of devils. It wasn't all bad for him. He was told that since he was a devil now, Issei had the opportunity to rise through the ranks and become a high-class devil. One who could gain his own evil pieces and become a master of his own servants. Of course Issei, being the pervert he was, proclaimed he was going to become the harem king. Of course, Riaz told him it wasn't going to be easy. In order to level up, he would have to accomplish certain tasks, one of which he was on his way back from doing. One of the ways devils gain power is to answer requests and make pacts with humans who summon them. Issei just finished up with his client, but it was all a bust. It began when he tried to warp to the client's home, but as it turned out his power as a newborn devil was below even that of a baby's, which hurt his pride immensely. So he had to travel to the client's house by bicycle, which was even more humiliating. Then when he was done with the client, although he fulfilled the request fully, he failed to make a pact with the client, so it didn't even count. By the time he realized this, it was too late to go back and do it again. Right now, Issei was on his way back to the orc clubroom from the client's house, a depressed look on his face from his failure on his debut night as a devil. Man, I suck so hard. I didn't even end up getting a pact, just a heated debate about Dragon Ball Z. What the hell was I thinking? He said to himself before letting out a sigh. Suddenly, he felt a chill run down his spine. The only time he ever felt a chill like this was when he had a run-in with Donaseek in the park the night before. Someone's there, is it that guy? This feels familiar, he asked as he turned around to see who it was. Out of the darkness came a lone woman. The woman in question was a tall and very buxom woman with brown eyes and long navy blue hair that was long enough to obscure her right eye and a gold necklace. The woman wore a maroon trench coat-like top with a wide collar that was open at her chest, giving a good view of her breasts and cleavage, a matching colored miniskirt and black-heeled shoes. If this woman didn't give Issei the creeps, he would definitely be drooling right now at her appearance and thinking of the ways he could use her impressive breasts. What a surprise. The woman said. You're not what I thought, but I'm pretty certain you're the one I was sent to find. Allow me to introduce myself, my name is Raynare, and I have orders to destroy you. The woman now known as Raynare announced. This is truly unusual, why are you still alive? What the hell is going on? Issei asked, fright present in his voice. Suddenly, two jet black wings emerged from her back. A fallen angel. Issei exclaimed. She was supposed to have taken care of this already. Raynare said as she materialized a light spear in her right hand, which was yellow in color. She took aim and threw it at the pervert, who saw it coming and dodged it. Raynare then saw the seal of the Gremory household glowing on his left palm. Is that the Gremory family crest, she exclaimed wide-eyed. As Issei landed on the ground, he turned over and started crawling backwards from his attacker. Oh man, does this mean I'm going to be killed again? So you're the one Donaseek mistook for a stray, and the one that masked fallen angel saved just before he could finish you off. My, this is certainly interesting. Raynare said before she took to the skies and created another light spear. The fact that you are a member of the Gremory household makes it all the more important that you are destroyed. She shouted as she bolted towards her target, frightening Issei further. No way, this bitch is actually going to kill me. No wait, that power they told me I had, Issei thought as he remembered to when Riaz told him that he had some kind of power sleeping within him and how to awake it. Issei then got back on his feet and raised his hand in the air. Focus. Issei shouted when suddenly, he was enveloped in a bright green light, shocking Raynare as the energy from the light managed to push her back. Suddenly, a bright red gauntlet with gold spike-like attachments on both sides and a green gem in the center appeared on the back of his left hand. Issei then fired a blast from the gauntlet right at his attacker, the result being her clothes being completely blown away. Issei looked at the gauntlet and was now shocked beyond belief after seeing the new addition of his body and what it just did, not more so than Raynare. Is that a sacred gear? She asked as Issei just looked at his attacker, shock still present on his face. I've got better things to do. I'm gonna let someone else deal with this crap. She proclaimed angrily while trying to cover herself before she took off in the opposite direction. Issei just looked confused as she flew away. What the hell is a sacred gear? He asked, sounding completely freaked out as he eyed the gauntlet on his arm. Well, even I have to admit that was a pretty impressive light show. Issei jumped in fright at the new voice. He looked behind him to see Kian, although Issei doesn't know it's her, in her black skull attire walking up to him with a Mosin Nagant M91 sniper rifle in hand. Kian was flying home when she saw her brother was in trouble and was about to jump in. She stopped however when she saw the green light coming from Issei. Issei looked at the masked stranger and suddenly widened his eyes in realization. What the? You're that fallen angel who saved me the other night. Issei exclaimed. Good memory. And I gotta say Hyoudou, I didn't expect you to awaken your sacred gear, let alone be able to survive an encounter against a fallen angel on your own. Kian said as she dissipated a rifle. This put Issei's mind to ease since it meant she wasn't going to shoot him. He then adopted a serious look on his face as he stared down the masked stranger before him. Alright, what the hell is going on here? Who the hell are you? How the hell do you know my name? Why the hell are people trying to kill me? And what the hell is the deal with this thing? Issei motioned to the gauntlet on his hand. I want answers. Now. Issei demanded while pointing a finger at Kian for emphasis. Calm down. I told you already that I was your guardian angel. As to what you can call me, I go by the handle Black Skull. Black Skull, huh? Okay, I gotta admit, it's kinda catchy. As to how I know you, suffice it to say I have access to a large network of information. Nothing goes on in this town without me knowing about it. Issei was surprised at what the masked fallen angel told him but went back to the matter at hand. Alright, now on to my next question. What the hell is a sacred gear? A sacred gear, also known as God's artifacts, are items with powerful abilities that have been bestowed upon to humans by God. Kian explained to her brother. From what I have read, God created them as part of his system to enact miracles on earth. I have also read that certain individuals with sacred gears have gone on to become very powerful and influential, and that they had their names etched into the history books. Many historical figures you've read and heard about had sacred gears, and no one ever knew. Kian finished, causing Issei to become wide-eyed in disbelief before he looked at his own newly awakened sacred gear. No way. Issei looked at the gauntlet on his arm. And this is one of these sacred gears. And the reason why those fallen angels wanted me dead? Issei asked. It is. But something doesn't seem right. What do you mean? From what I have read, that one there is called a double critical, also known as the Hand of the Dragon. It's a dragon-type sacred gear whose power is that it doubles the users for a certain time. Kian answered. Doubles my power? That's good, isn't it? Actually, I hate to break it to you, but that is supposed to be one of the weakest and most common sacred gears out there. This made Issei feel like he got hit with a ton of bricks. He thought he was going to be badass now that he awakened his sacred gear, but to find out that it was weak was a serious blow to his pride. He was now on his knees crying and I'm like tears. Seriously? Man, tonight just isn't my night, is it? Kian quietly chuckled at her brother's misfortune for a moment. Seriously though, why would that bitch Raynare kill you over something like this? I need to do more research. There must be something more to this than meets the eye. Kian said before she turned to walk away. Hey wait. Issei called, snapping out of his depression. He then raised his hand to Kian. What about this? How am I going to go through life with this thing? Relax, will you? Now that you have awakened it, you can decide when to turn it on or off. All you have to do is concentrate. Kian answered. Issei did just that. After focusing for a brief moment, the gauntlet was now gone and his hand returned to normal, relieving him greatly. Oh thank goodness. Going to school and living at home with something like this would have been real difficult. Not to mention it would have slowed me down in my alone time. Kian just gained a tick mark at her brother's lewd comment. She wanted to punch him upside the head but managed to rein herself in. So she just put 2 fingers to her forehead and shook her head in annoyance. Honestly, you are such a freaking perv. Issei just chuckled while scratching the back of his head. Kian then turned around to walk away. Hey wait. Issei once again called out, making Kian look at him again. I have to know, why are you doing this? Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful and all for you saving me, but why go out of your way to help someone like me? I mean, you don't even know me, not to mention I'm a devil and you're a fallen angel. We're supposed to be enemies, aren't we? Just because we're on opposite sides doesn't always mean we have to be enemies. Let me ask you something, Hyoudou, where do we find allies? Issei just shook his head as he didn't know the answer, thinking it was probably a trick question. We find allies among our enemies. Kian answered. So what, today's enemies are tomorrow's friends. Something like that. And you look like you could use an ally. Issei smiled and nodded his head. Kian was silent for a few moments before answering again. And plus because I made a promise that I would protect you. She answered with an honest tone, causing Issei to look at her wide-eyed in surprise. Never in his life had anyone ever said something like that to him. Issei nonetheless adopted a small smile once again, and a chuckle escaped his mouth. You know, when I encountered those other two fallen angels, my body told me to run away. But with you it's like I don't need to run. I just feel really calm around you. Weird, isn't it? Kian just smiled under her mask. Perhaps it's a sign. Your body is telling you that you can trust me. Kian replied. Maybe. Issei responded as he scratched his cheek. I must go now, Hyoudou. We'll speak again soon. Until then, now that you have awakened your sacred gear, stay on your guard. Something in my gut tells me there is more to your sacred gear than anyone thinks. She said before she brought out her own wings and flew away into the night. Issei watched as his sister flew off into the night. He then looked at his left hand and thought about what had transpired tonight. His face adopted a serious look as he balled his hand into a fist. So what if this thing is weak? I won't let that slow me down. I'll show everyone that I have what it takes to make it to high class. I am going to be a harem king one day, and above that, I am going to use this power to protect Kian. I will get stronger so that no one I love will get hurt because I was too weak to do anything. This I swear. He thought with a determined smile on his face. He then walked back to his bike, picked it up and restarted his walk back to the club room. The next day, Issei and Kian got up, ate breakfast, and headed off to school. The twins had decided to take a shortcut through the park. It was a good day so far since the twins haven't had a run-in with Mitsuda and Motohama. Kian of course didn't mind since she had no love for the other two perverts. She thought this would be a good day. Kian looked to her brother and noticed that Issei looked to be down in the dumps. Hey, what's wrong with you? Issei knew he couldn't tell Kian about what transpired the previous night without the risk of his sister thinking he was a lunatic. He quickly thought of something to tell her. President Riaz gave me a job to do for the club and I kinda screwed it up. He answered. Kian knew it was a lie since she knows everything but decided to keep up the charade. Oh damn, that sucks for you, doesn't it? Kian said with a snicker. Issei shot a glare at his sister. Don't make fun of me, Kian. He said. He then let out a loud sigh. Seriously, what am I supposed to do if she's still mad at me? Honestly, why am I such an idiot? I might have a few answers to that, but you might not like them. Kian answered with a smart-ass tone, causing Issei to gain a tick mark and once again glare at his sister. You just like making fun of me, don't you, Kian? And/or yes. She answered, further angering her brother. Why you? Hi-ah. The twins were pulled out of their conversation when they heard an unknown voice. They looked to the source of the noise when they were greeted by the sight of a young girl on the ground, her white panties completely visible for all the world to see. Kian was shocked at the sight, while Issei sported a beyond perverted grin as he took in the sight. Oh no, it looks like I fell down again. I'm such a klutz. The unknown girl said out loud. She then managed to roll over and sit up. She then looked up to the twins. The girl in question wore a green nun's habit with brown boots and a white veil on her head with a silver cross around her neck. She had eyes that were as green as emeralds and long golden blonde hair hiding under her veil. This girl was indeed beautiful, but one question plagued the twins' minds. Who is this? They thought at the same time. Issei and Kian just stared at the strange foreign girl on the ground as said girl continued to look at the twins. Kian stared at the girl with a curious look while her brother continued to look at the girl with a perverted grin. Ooh, oh man, that's what I'm talking about. Smokin' hot chick. Smokin' hot panty shot. Issei thought as he continued to look at the girl lecherously, even getting a good upskirt shot of the girl's underwear. Kian looked at her brother and seeing the disgusting look on his face and her face immediately scowled. She got so annoyed, a visage of the Grim Reaper appeared behind her and she released a chilling, deathly aura. Issei suddenly felt a chill go down his spine and his face turned pale. He then turned his head slowly and looked at his sister, who was giving him a death glare that frightened him to no end. Aw crap, Kian is pissed. I better find a way to fix the situation before she actually does kill me. He thought as he shook his head to bring him back to reality. He then walked up to the girl and held out a hand to help her up off the ground. Hi there. Are you alright? Issei asked the girl, who took his hand as Issei helped her up. Oh, yeah. I'm okay. Really? The girl responded as she got back on her feet. Suddenly, a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere and it blew away the girl's veil, revealing her long, beautiful blonde hair that looked like it was made of silk. Kian and Issei were utterly amazed at the girl's hair. Whoa, I've only seen hair that blonde in movies. I never thought I would see something like this in real life. So beautiful, Kian thought. Oh man. So Issei thought, completely unable to form a single sane thought in his head, completely perplexed by her beauty. Thanks. The girl thanked Issei, who just realized he was still holding onto her hand. Ah, sorry about that. Issei exclaimed as he quickly pulled his hand away. Now both he and the girl were sporting blushes on their faces. Kian just snickered at the exchange but soon went to retrieve the girl's veil. I apologize for him. The only time he is like this is when he's around a pretty girl. Kian said as she handed the girl her veil, which she took. All the while, the blush on the nun's face grew brighter. Thank you very much. Issei's face just reddened greatly at his sister's comment. Kian. How could you say something like that? What? It's the truth, isn't it? Kian asked as she brought a finger to her face. Issei was now steaming in embarrassment. Kian just chuckled at her brother's reaction and decided to stop the ridicule. I'm just playing with you, Issei. Well, don't do that, Kian. I have a weak heart. Issei complained, causing Kian to roll her eyes. Kian then noticed the girl's suitcase and saw that its contents were everywhere. Oh. Looks like all your clothes fell out of your suitcase when you fell down. Here, we'll help you gather them. Kian said, causing the girl to smile brightly. Oh, thank you both so much. The girl said in gratitude as Kian and Issei gathered her clothes and put them back in her suitcase. The older Hyoudou twin then handed the girl her suitcase. Thank you both. If it's not too much trouble, do you think you can help me out? The girl asked shyly. Sure, what do you need? Issei asked. Well, I just came into this town and I'm a little lost. Do you think you can show me where the church in this town is? Kian pulled out her cell phone to check the time. Seeing that they had a little time before school started, she decided to indulge the girl. Sure, we got time. We'll help you out. Kian answered, her brother nodding his head in agreement. The girl's smile grew wider at their answer. Oh, thank you both so much. I'm so glad I ran into people who are as kind as you two are. She said happily. Oh, by the way, we haven't been properly introduced. My name is Asia Argento. The girl now known as Asia Argento introduced herself. Nice to meet you, Asia. My name is Kian Hyoudou. And my name is Issei Hyoudou. Asia raised an eyebrow at the twins' introduction. They both shared the same last name and wondered if they were related. Hyoudou, are you two siblings? The twins then nodded both their heads. We're twins actually. They both answered at the same time, causing the both of them to look at each other in surprise. Even Asia was surprised by how in sync they were. Holy crap. Did we just do the thing where we say the same thing at the same time? Issei asked surprised. Damn, we haven't done that since we were kids. Both said at the same time, causing the both of them to look at each other again, only this time with annoyed expressions. Hey, stop that. You stop that. Seriously, this isn't funny. Kian Issei, I mean it, knock it off. The twins just stood in silence for a moment as they stared at each other, with the same annoyed look on their faces before they went at it again. I bet you think you're being funny, but you're just being really, really annoying and immature right now. Alright, enough. Issei shouted while waving his hands in the air. Asia just chuckled at the exchange between the twins, making them look at the nun. Right now, the twins were escorting Asia to the church. So Asia, if I may ask, what business do you have with the church of our town? Kian asked. Well, you see, I was appointed to the church in this town, but I kinda got lost trying to find it. Answered Asia, confusing the twins. Why would anyone send you to the church here? Last I checked it was abandoned ages ago. Issei said with a curious tone. Asia then looked at the ground with a disheartened expression. Honestly, they probably just wanted any excuse to get rid of me. She said sadly. The twins just looked at the girl with pity in their eyes. The group was suddenly brought out of their thoughts by what appeared to be the sound of a child crying child. They looked towards the source and they saw a boy no older than 10 on the ground with a bleeding scrape on his knee. Asia saw the boy was in pain, so she put her suitcase down and went to help the boy with the twins following her. There now. A big boy like you shouldn't cry over a scrape. Don't worry, you're going to be fine. The nun kindly said to the boy with a sweet smile on her face. Her words were enough to make the boy stop crying. Asia then put both of her hands above the boy's wounds and suddenly her hands emitted a soft green glow. Soon enough, the wound on the boy's knee began to close, surprising the twins. Amazing. Is that some kind of sacred gear? Kian thought. Whoa. She healed him. Issei said. Suddenly, he felt a sharp jolt of pain in his left hand, causing him distress. Kian saw this and became concerned. Issei looks to be in pain. Is it because of Asia's power? Kian thought. After a few more moments, Asia finished healing the boy's knee. You see. There's no reason for you to cry at all, you'll be just fine. Asia said, not losing the smile on her face. Yashi, where did you go? A new voice said. The voice belonged to a woman who looked old enough to be the boy's mother. She ran up to the boy, now known as Yashi, who was now back up on his feet. This girl here helped heal my injury. Yashi said as he pointed to the blonde-haired nun. The woman just looked at Asia as if she was an alien and grabbed her son away from the girl. You shouldn't be talking to strange people, Yashi. Let's go. the woman said, shocking Asia and angering the twins. As the woman and her son were about to walk away, Kian called out to her. "Hey, what the hell is wrong with you?" Kian exclaimed angrily, causing her to stop. "Yeah, this girl here healed your kid and you treat her as if she was infected with some kind of disease, where the hell is your damn gratitude lady?" Issei shouted. They were about to say more until Asia stopped them from saying anything else. "Issei, Kian, please it's fine," she said, making them look at her confused. As Yoshi and his mother began to walk away again, Yoshi turned around and looked at Asia with a grateful smile and waved to her. "Thank you very much." The twin smiled a little, knowing the fact that someone was grateful for what Asia did for him. With that, the three continued their trek to the church. They walked for a few minutes not saying anything since the incident back in the park. Issei just eyed the girl curiously, specifically what she did to Yoshi's knee. "You two must be surprised," Asia said, finally breaking the silence. No not at all," Issei said. "Speak for yourself." "I must say Asia, that is an interesting gift you have," Kian said. "Thank you. I consider it to be a gift and a blessing. Truly it's wonderful," Asia responded with a sad smile. Suddenly, her smile brightened as she looked ahead. "Hey, there it is," she exclaimed as the twins also looked ahead. Sure enough, the only church in Kuo town was in sight about a mile or two away. "Oh yeah, that's the church all right," Issei said. "Yep, the only one this town has," Kian said. "Thank goodness I found it. What a relief." Once Issei looked at the church, he felt a cold chill run down his spine, his body tensed up, and he immediately felt the urge to vomit. Kian saw that her brother was not looking too good. As a devil, she knew that for Issei, going near a church or anything affiliated with it would be a problem for him. So now she need to think of a way to help him out. "Well, this is where we leave you, Asia. My brother and I need to be getting to school now before we get in trouble," Kian said. "Wait, let me at least thank you properly for bringing me here. How about I make you both some tea?" Asia offered. "Thanks Asia, but as my sister said we need to get going otherwise we are gonna catch major hell," Issei replied. Hearing that caused Asia to gain a saddened expression. "Oh, alright." But then she smiled again. "Well I guess I should be going too. Thank you both again, it was so sweet of the both of you to guide me here." Both of the twins smiled at Asia's grateful words. "You're very welcome Asia," replied Issei. "So long Asia, I hope we meet again soon," replied Kian. "I do too Kian. I think it was a blessing that I met both you and your brother. Farewell to the both of you." Asia bid her goodbye to the twins as she headed to the church, while Issei and Kian headed off to school. Along the way, Issei just couldn't get it out of his head of how Yoshi's mother treated Asia after she healed his knee. Kian saw her brother was deep in thought and decided to find out what was bugging him. "A penny for you thoughts little brother," she said. Issei let out a sigh before he answered. "I just can't get over how that lady treated Asia even after what she did for her kid," replied her brother. "I know what you mean, but sadly, there's nothing we can do about it." "Maybe so, but it still sucks that she treat Asia like someone with the plague," he replied intensely. He let out a sigh. "Still, I'm just glad that kid was actually grateful for what Asia did. That he wasn't one of those little assholes who would call her a freak or weirdo and just run off. You know too well that children can be cruel Kian." Kian didn't need to be reminded of that. As a child, she was picked on by other kids on the playground for no good reason other than to make her feel inferior. That is until Issei was around and beat the crap out of them for messing with his sister. "I realized that Issei. But remember, adults can be just as cruel, if not more so than children. But then again, what do you expect? It's human nature to fear, outright despise that which is well different. As stupid and messed up as it is, sadly it's true." Hearing that didn't make Issei any less stressed. In fact, he just continued to scowl. Kian then put her hand on his shoulder, making him stop and look at her. "Hey, come on. Don't let that lady get to you. That kid was grateful for what Asia did and that's what matters. Just focus more on that, okay?" Kian said with a smile, which in turn made Issei smile too. Yeah, you're right. As always, you're right sis. That's the spirit. Now, how about we get our butts to school before we actually are late?" Issei then grinned wickedly. "Race you there gun nut," he said before he took off in a sprint. Kian was surprised by this. "Hey. No fair you jerk," she shouted before she too took off in a sprint after her brother, Issei laughing a good portion of the way. The warehouse. Bang bang bang. Kian was right now in the warehouse continuing with her training. Currently she was in one of the booths of the makeshift firing range, firing her pistols at some targets with Azazel supervising her. Once she depleted her clip, she tossed the gun, which then dissipated and went to the next booth where she brought a shotgun to her hands. Bang bang bang. Just like with the targets for her pistols, she unloaded rounds on the targets before her. Once the shotgun was out of ammo, she tossed then, which disappeared just as the pistol did. Kian went to the next booth and brought forth an M4 assault rifle and began unloading on the targets. Bang 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 bang. Once the assault rifle was empty, Kian put the weapon down and looked towards Azazel. Well, how was that? Azazel went to the targets and examined them. The targets all had bullet holes in the center, as well as a few in the head, nearly all in the center. He looked at them with a calculating look before looking back at Kian with his usual grin. Well Kian, I gotta say you are spot on accurate. Multiple hits in the center ring as well as well-placed headshots, not to mention your response time and speed have increased greatly. I'm telling you, you have the makings of a deadly assassin. He complimented, making Kian smirk. Well I aim to please. And your aim is dead on, Kian. Replied Azazel. Which is why I believe it is time for you to take on your first assignment. Hearing that made Kian raise an eyebrow in curiosity. Assignment, Azazel. Yep, what good is teaching you all these skills if you don't utilize them? And I think a job out in the field will do just that. What kind of job did you have in mind? Inquired Kian. Well, I am sending you with someone to do the job as well as show you how it is done. Before Kian could ask her next question, on cue, the door to the warehouse opened and a lone figure entered the building. Well, speak of the devil. Azazel said. The figure was a man who looked to be in his early to mid-20s. He had spiky red-dyed hair with green eyes. He wore a black leather jacket with a gray shirt, blue jeans and black boots. He also had a few piercings on his ears. At first glance, Kian thought he was some kind of delinquent. Kian, I'd like you to meet Samandriel aka the Red Death, he's one of the Grigori's top assassins. Samandriel, this is Kian, the girl I told you about. At the introduction, Samandriel walked up to her and looked at the reincarnated fallen angel, as if he was analyzing her. There is something about you that I like. Nice to officially meet you Issei Hyoudou, Lord Azazel has told me much about you. He finds you to be quite the promising student. Samandriel greeted her kindly while extending his hand to shake hers. Kian just looked at the newcomer for a few moments before accepting his hand. All the while wondering how he got that nickname. Nice to meet you as well Samandriel. You know, you really don't seem like an assassin. Kian said. Oh that's only when I'm on the job. When off the job, I can be one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Just don't piss me off. Samandriel replied. So I guess you're the one Lord Azazel wants me to show the ropes. I guess so. Kian replied before she looked back at Azazel. So what's this assignment you have for us Azazel? Azazel gave them the come here gesture for them to come to the table. On the table were several files and a map with red X on it. Azazel opened the files and emptied their contents, which were revealed to be what could be crime scene photos and written information. This is your assignment. 2 weeks ago, while observing some potential possessors of sacred gears, a couple of our guys were ambushed by a couple of stray devils. Stray devils? You mean devils who killed their masters all to pursue their own selfish desires? Kian inquired. Azazel smiled that his student remembered what he taught her. Top marks for you Kian. He replied, making her smirk. Anyway, yeah, they were ambushed by these strays. They were brutally tortured and eventually killed. The way these animals killed them was beyond indescribable. The guys they killed were some of my best. They were good guys, they didn't deserve to go out the way they did. So, consider this your first mission, Kian. Your job is to hunt these rabid animals down and put them down. Samandriel here will assist you as well as oversee how you do in the field. Azazel said with a serious tone. Kian looked at the photos and felt her stomach turn. It looked like the victims in the photos were put into a blender. Blood was splattered all over the wall, writing and upside-down crosses were painted on the wall in the victim's blood, but the one that got to her was the way the victims, adults and children, were bound to chairs and decapitated. Kian hasn't killed yet, but after seeing the pictures, she wanted nothing more than kill the monsters behind these murders. Even Samandriel was disgusted by what he saw. He actually knew one of the fallen angels who were murdered since his days during the Great War. The fallen angel was a friend of his, and now he was on board with killing these filthy beasts. These bastards are animals. Samandriel said with venom in his voice. Kian looked at the fallen angel assassin and nodded her head. And now we're gonna hunt them down. She replied before looking back to her mentor. So what do we know about our targets? Azazel grabbed a folder and gave it to Kian, who opened it and examined its contents. Inside were pictures. One of a man who looked to be in his early to mid-20s with spiky black hair, brown eyes, and a multitude of piercings on his ears and lips, making him look like some kind of delinquent. The woman looked to be the same age with short brown hair and green eyes. She was smiling evilly in the photo, her teeth looking like they've been filed down to a point, making them look like shark teeth. These two couldn't look any more like monsters. From what we know, the stray devils in question were once a knight and bishop for a high-class devil. According to reports they killed their master along with the rest of his peerage in a similar fashion they did to our guys, escaped the underworld, and came to the human world to raise some hell of their own. Kian and Samandriel soon looked at the map on the table. They noticed they were marked with several red X over some cities in Japan. I assume these X on the map are places where these animals hid. inquired Kian. Azazel nodded his head. You assume wisely. The strays hit each of these cities. Their basic mo is that they would break into the home when the victim slept, wake them up and take them hostage. After tying them up, they started with the children to psychologically torture the parents. Afterwards they would do the same thing with the wife. Finally they would torture and kill the husband last. Kian grew angry with what her mentor had told her. She had read about psychopaths and serial killers, but they were choir boys compared to these strays. Samandriel looked to his leader. Sir, any idea what their heading is? Well, according to some of my spies, they are heading east. And if the intel is anything to go on, then their next heading. Dottie then pointed to a location on the map. And the location surprised Kian. Is Kuo town. From their heading, they should be within the city limits by tonight. This is the perfect opportunity to kill them. Take note, these strays appear to be thrill seekers, so they will be especially dangerous and unlikely to go down without a fight, but maybe seeing the Red Death might shake them up a bit. You both have your assignment, good luck to you both. Wishing his subordinates luck, the two bowed to Azazel and left the warehouse to go to the mission point. Unknown to the two elder fallen angels, Kian felt a little fidgety about her first mission. Later that evening, Samandriel and Kian were now sitting on a rooftop on the outskirts of the city, waiting for their targets to show themselves and assassinate them. They had to wait a couple hours for them to arrive, so they grabbed some food to snack on. Kian materialized a PGM-HK-2 anti-material rifle for better range and stopping power and eagerly waited for her targets, but she still felt a bit anxious. Ever since she knew Azazel, she hadn't had to kill anyone yet, except for when she tried to kill Raynare after she tried to kill her brother, but she was angry at what she did and wanted revenge. Samandriel looked at his partner and could tell she seemed nervous, seeing as how she was gripping her rifle. Feeling a little nervous, are we? He asked. A little. Kian answered, nodding her head. I never actually killed anyone before. I mean, I almost did once before, but I was angry at what happened then. Yes, Lord Azazel told me about what happened to your brother, I'm sorry. It wasn't your fault. I asked Azazel if I could kill Raynare if I saw her again, and he wholeheartedly gave me his blessing. At first I was happy, but honestly, I don't know if I can do it. I have no problem shooting paper targets, but shooting a live person is Kian couldn't finish her sentence. Kian, let me tell you a little story. Long ago, when I first started out as an assassin for the Grigori, Lord Azazel gave me my first assignment. My target was supposedly a mole in the organization. I was okay with killing him at first, until I found out that the traitor was a friend of mine, one who I've known for many years and who also saved my life once before. I was conflicted at first, but I reluctantly took the job. I thought I couldn't kill him since he was my friend, until one day, I came across a list in his quarters that contained information on some of the organization's high-tier fallen angels, their real names, their ranks, their aliases, as well as their locations. I also found out he was going to sell it to a terrorist organization for a hefty price. When I found out about it, to say I was shocked would have been an understatement. I confronted him later on, he tried to deny it at first, but then he tried to save his own skin by saying he would split the money with me. I told him I would die before I ever betray the Grigori and Lord Azazel. When all was said and done, I killed him. Kian was shocked at Samandriel's story. She wanted to ask him questions, but could tell he had more to say, so she allowed him to continue. I was right where you are now, Kian. Despite being trained to be an assassin, this would have been my first kill, and I thought I wouldn't be able to carry out the deed, especially when I found out that the target was my friend and one who saved my life. But after being presented with the evidence, I had to make a choice, either spare him out of an old debt and let terrorists hunt down and kill our leaders, or kill him and save our leaders who would live to see and fight another day as well, and keep our organization from falling into chaos. In the end, I chose the latter. It was on that day that I realized that sometimes killing one means possibly saving thousands. So on that day, I swore an oath that I would only kill those who were most deserving of death. Those who would prey on the innocent and the weak, or sell out those they once called their comrade for an easy payday. I'm not saying killing is going to come naturally to you on your first night. Killing is never easy the first time around, but sometimes it is worth it if it means that you could save innocent people from such a terrible fate. Try to take those words to heart. Kian sat in silence at what Samandriel had told her. Never would she have thought of it that way. She had seen the crime scene photos of what these stray devils did to innocent families. These two were monsters, and Kian wanted to make sure that no other family had to go through the same hell the other families did. And after hearing Samandriel's story as well as his personal philosophy, she now felt like she had the resolve to go through with the mission. She decided to ask Samandriel a question that has been plaguing her mind. Hey Samandriel. Yes. Do you ever regret killing your former friend? Samandriel was silent for a few moments before he let out a sigh and answered his charge. Not a day goes by that I don't think about it. Like I said, I've known him for a long time and he saved my life a long time ago, and I felt I would always be indebted to him. But after learning what he had done and what he was going to do, I had to forget about all that and look at the bigger picture. What he did was an act of high treason, and he had to pay for it, no matter how much it seemed wrong to kill him. So to answer your question, I do regret killing a friend I was indebted to. But what I don't regret is saving the lives of my fellow fallen angels. And at the end of the day, that is all that matters to me. Given the opportunity, I would do it again. Kian smiled softly at the older fallen angel's wisdom. Thank you, Samandriel. What you said really helped put things into perspective. Samandriel was about to respond when he felt an odd sensation. He looked out to the distance and recognized the sensation, their targets were in range. Here they come. You ready, Kian? Kian grinned as she pressed the button to put down her mask. Ready or not, it's go time. She responded as the mask slid down to cover her face. Alright, I'll go on ahead and ground these vermin, be ready to fire when I give the word. Samandriel brought out his 6 fallen angel wings and took to the skies to intercept the strays. Meanwhile, Kian brought up and readied a rifle, aimed at the direction of the strays, and awaited Samandriel's word to fire. The 2 stray devils were currently flying towards Kuo town. Sadistic and evil smiles adorned on their faces as they approached the site of their next hunt. Hoo. Yeah baby. This is gonna be fucking wicked. The male stray shouted in excitement. I know, just thinking about what we can do in this shithole is getting me so turned on right now. The female stray said seductively. As the 2 strays neared the outskirts of the city, suddenly, 2 red light spears appeared above them out of nowhere and they managed to clip their wings. With their ability to fly disabled, the stray devils fell to the ground and crashed hard. They struggled to get up but managed to get back on their feet. They looked at their wings and realized that each of them had a wing destroyed, so now they can't fly away. What the fuck just happened? The male shouted in anger. His lover was equally angry at what happened to them. Better yet, where the hell did those light spears come from? The 2 strays soon heard wings flapping and looked up to see what it was. Samandriel soon landed before them, a cold, serious expression on his face. From the look on his face, Samandriel meant business and looked to be in no mood for bullshit. Good evening, abominations. The red-haired assassin greeted them with venom in his voice. The strays were surprised for a few moments, but then sneered arrogantly at him. Well, began the male stray. A fallen angel here of all places. So who the hell are you filthy crow? If you must know, my name is Samandriel. The fallen angel assassin introduced himself, causing the female stray become shocked and wide-eyed. She knew who this fallen angel was and knew that they had to get away from him. I am what you would call a cleaner for the Grigori. I deal with trash like you two on a basis. The male stray looked rather offended at Samandriel's words. Trash like us? Who do you think you're talking to? Have you lost your mind? No, scratch what I said. You two are lower than trash. You're both just scum. And after hearing what you two did to 2 of my friends, not to mention those other innocent families you killed, I believe killing you both will be the highlight of my night. Being called scum was the last straw for the male stray, as he took out a knife and readied himself to attack Samandriel. Before he could leap towards him, his lover put a hand on his shoulder to stop him. He turned and looked at her in a confused manner. He saw the look of horror on her face. What's wrong with you, babe? We need to leave here. Now. What? Leave? Why the hell would we do that? Those piercing green eyes, that bright red hair, there's no doubt about it. This guy, this fallen angel. This is Samandriel, the one who goes by the name the Red Death. I'm honored that my name is so well known. Even to some stray trash like you. Samandriel replied. Her lover then looked back at Samandriel surprised. His shocked expression soon turned into an arrogant smirk. Haha, the Red Death, huh? He then started cackling wildly. Well, looks like this is gonna be a sweet night. It's not every day I get to fight and kill me a legend. He then leapt towards Samandriel, ready to kill the famed assassin. The woman pleaded her lover not to. Samandriel waited for the stray to get in range. As the stray raised his knife above his head to stab him, Samandriel caught his wrist and twisted it, breaking it and making him drop his knife. Gah! The man shouted in pain. Samandriel wasn't done as he then materialized a small red knife made of light and stabbed him in the stomach, causing him further pain. The man was now on the ground, trying to clutch the spot where he was stabbed. Samandriel walked slowly towards him until he was looming over him. The man looked up and looked at Samandriel with hate and disdain. Before you die, tell me, why did you kill all those families and those fallen angels? Why did you brutally torture them? The male stray just chuckled evilly. Why not? He replied, blood seeping from his mouth. The idea that we held their worthless, pathetic lives in our hands, knowing that we could kill them at any time we pleased. We tortured them because we thought it would give us more of an adrenaline rush before we killed them, and we were right. Then we found the perfect formula to get the ultimate high, torture and kill the kids first, then the wife, then the husband last. Believe me, nothing felt as good as what we did to those pathetic humans. Samandriel looked at the stray furiously, despite still having a stoic expression on his face. And the fallen angels, why kill them? They were convenient. We figured we get a kick killing the shitty race that hunted us down like animals. See what it's like for them to be on the receiving end of the pain. Who gives a shit, it's ancient history. Samandriel then stomped on the stray's chest, causing him more pain. One of those fallen angels was my friend. He was a good soldier and an even better man. He didn't deserve to die the way he did. Samandriel said, hiding the anger and hate in his voice. The stray then chuckled, further angering Samandriel. Well, let me tell you a little something about that friend of yours. With what we did to him, he cried like a little bitch. It was priceless. He said mockingly, breaking out in a maniacal laughter. The laughter was silenced when Samandriel threw a light spear through his skull. Once the spear disappeared, blood spilled from his skull like a waterfall, spilling onto the ground. Save your ramblings for the god of death, you sick bastard. He said to the corpse before he eyed the woman, who looked about she was about to shit herself. She just witnessed the death of her lover at the hands of a famed assassin, and now he was looking at her like a predator about to pounce on his prey. The female stray certainly didn't want to end up like her companion, so without any other option and with her wings destroyed, she ran off in the opposite direction as fast as she could. Samandriel then put a finger to his left ear. Kian, the other target is on the run, do you have a visual? Back to Kian, she prepped her rifle and took aim in the direction of the fleeing stray. Looking through the scope and got a visual of the stray. Affirmative, I see her. She confirmed. Alright, when you have a shot, you take it. Kian looked through the scope and used one of her mask's features that allowed her see better in the dark and even showed her the optimal place to shoot. As she was about to pull the trigger, she hesitated at first, but then remembered what Samandriel told her. Sometimes killing one means possibly saving thousands. And with what these animals did to those innocent families, death was a punishment they more than well earned. With her resolve renewed, she breathed in deep and then let it out. She aimed at the stray and, bang, a light bullet left the anti-tank rifle and flew straight for the stray. The stray ran and ran, but it was all for naught as the bullet made contact with her back. Because the rifle was a large caliber, the bullet literally blew her chest out, exploding into little wet chunks and killing her before she hit the dirt. Blood came out her like Niagara Falls as she lay dead. Their mission was complete, both of the strays were dead, and their killing spree officially came to an end. Samandriel smiled at the older Hyoudou twins' first kill. Nice shot, Kian. You did good for your first night out. I'm proud of you. He praised the girl. Kian didn't answer immediately as she started breathing heavily and her heart began pounding fast, feeling like it was about to burst from her chest. She had just killed a living being for the first time. Even if the target was a stray devil that deserved to die, like Samandriel said, killing isn't easy the first time around. Hey, Kian, do you read me? Samandriel asked worriedly, but again got no answer. Kian, please respond. Taking slow, deep breaths, Kian managed to calm herself down before putting her finger to her helmet to respond. Yeah, I'm here. I'm fine. Thanks, Samandriel. First step is always the hardest, right? Samandriel smiled softly, knowing that she was okay. Always is Kian. Alright, listen. I'm gonna stay here and clean up the bodies. If we leave them here and they are discovered, the humans here could start thinking there's some kind of psycho killer running around. Do you need some help? Kian asked after finally calming down. No, you've been out here long enough and I'm sure your family is starting to wonder where you are. You head on back home, I'll take care of things here. Kian was silent for a moment before she answered. If you insist. Before you go, Kian, Lord Azazel wanted me to pass along a message. What is it? Inquired Kian. Elias managed to get some more information out of Middled. According to Middled, Raynare is planning to forcibly acquire another person's sacred gear. Forcibly acquire someone's sacred gear? How is that possible? That's a question that's a little above my pay grade, you'll have to ask Lord Azazel about that one. What I do know, however, is that she told him that there is a stray priest who has all the information in a notebook he carries on his person. It basically has their whole plan written in it. Stray priest. As it sounds, they were once priests for the church who were ultimately excommunicated from the church for a heinous crime. This one in particular is named Fried Selzen. Find him, get his book, and maybe you can find out just what Raynare is planning. Kian smiled at the information she was given. Thanks, Samandriel, this is very helpful. I'll see you on the next assignment, hopefully. Over. Kian said, pressing the button on her mask to turn off the comms. Over and out. Samandriel responded back. With her mission done, she dissipated her rifle and unequipped her fatigues and mask and was now back in her school uniform. She turned around and looked towards the city. Before leaving, she stood still for a moment and then breathed in and out. First step is always the hardest. She thought as she took a step forward. She took a few more steps before she sprouted her wings and took off towards her home. As she was flying home, what Samandriel told her continued to plague her mind. Forcibly acquire someone's sacred gear. I get that if she acquires a sacred gear, that would make her the most beloved of all fallen angels as she puts it. But if she is going to take someone's sacred gear, whose is it? She thought for a few moments, then she went wide-eyed in realization. Wait, the nun Issei and I met earlier today, Asia Argento. Could she be after her sacred gear? Something tells me that Asia is going to play a role in Raynare's scheme and Asia is gonna end up as a casualty. Well, whatever that bitch is planning, I won't let it happen. She thought seriously to herself. Kian was now more than determined than ever to stop Raynare, and with Samandriel's philosophy still fresh in her mind, she was ready to stop Raynare from succeeding, no matter the cost. But first thing was first, she needed to know who the stray priest named Fried Selzen was, and she was certain that one of the databases in her helmet would be of help. She would worry about it when she got home, so she continued to fly into the night to her home and her waiting family. End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.